It's between bets. It's our best bets for week 5 of the NFL season. We've got everything from ATS, total, money line, player props, and of course, some anytime TD picks coming your way. But gentlemen, first, let's look back at how week 4 ended for you. For me, the bad beat started on Saturday. I was, just one leg away from hitting my college football parlay of the week. And then I use quarterback with time expiring, runs 40 yards back, takes a safety. We don't get the cover there. I continued on Sunday to me. I just had 3 player props in addition to a couple touchdown calls. I got 2 of my touchdown calls wrong with 2 of the wrong Chargers wide receivers. I did get Ashton Genty into the end zone. That paid out right around even money for me. And then I was also on Genty for his receptions. He hit every prop but that, I think, on Sunday. So that was a bummer. Took the wrong Texans running back, took Nick Chubb over 51.5 rushing yards. He got it, and then that got called back. So he did not get that. And then I was 1 reception short on Roma Dunze. So, so close for me. But, Steve, it was not a dry weekend for you up there in Boston.
Yeah, I got 7 times my money invested back this weekend.
Great ROI.
I went 10 for 11, I believe, on my bets this weekend. It was a hot one. I was on a heater, and a lot of it came from over-unders. I bet a lot of over-unders like this week, and I just bet on offense, like bet big, and then I hit a 3-touchdown parlay on the Monday Night Football game, which was really, really big. Thank you, Garrett Wilson, for getting in that second touchdown that, one was ruled incomplete, but we know it was a touchdown. It was a really cool week. I love betting the over-unders in games. It just makes it more fun, and I will never bet unders. I will only put money down on overs.
I actually kind of like the unders. It kind of gives me like a baseball.
No, because I'm rooting against the game at that point. You know what I mean?
But yeah, but I enjoy betting the unders of totals just because it makes me feel like I'm watching baseball or something. I can be a little more relaxed. I don't have to always ask for points. But Eric, for you also had a really great week in the spread, money line, and total markets.
Yeah, the beat goes on that front. Another 4 for 4 week with regard to that, moving close to plus 8.5 units on the season already in that particular market. And then, as I'm one to do, gave a lot of it back in the props market. Missed Matthew Golden by a yard, missed Ladd McConkey by more than a yard. Went 1 for 2 on my touchdown calls. Would have been a perfect 2 for 2. But Harold Fannin decided to stop running his route before he was before the target arrived there. So that was a bit of a bad beat. But on the whole, pushing better than 5 units up on the season.
Awesome. Love to hear it. I'm seeing some more questions coming in the chat. We'll get to those in just a little bit. But first, let's get to our picks for week 5. And Eric, we'll start with you right here in the ATS market.
Yeah, looking to stay hot here, going with Tampa Bay getting 3.5 points traveling on the road to the Seattle Seahawks. Best price I could find on that was -107 over at BetRivers. Some of this is just simple arithmetic. Look through 4 weeks and find me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game that didn't come down to essentially the last drive, if not the last possession. They are, even regardless of insane deficits that they draw, they dig themselves at the onset of the game, able to pull out that Baker magic and find their way back into games. And moreover, I think this matchup is pretty favorable for a close contest. We were talking about what we saw from the Seattle offense last week at Arizona. I think a lot of that has to do with Arizona being a pretty stout run defense, as is Tampa Bay. So I think we're going to see Seattle a little bit diluted in terms of their potency on offense. And I think that Tampa Bay getting the 3.5 should be a easy ticket to cash.
Steve, you've had a fun ride this year. You've bet a lot of nasty dogs, right? You've bet a lot of close your eyes specials, including last week you were on the Saints, and it came through for you. But here this week, you're actually going the opposite direction, where you're actually betting a road favorite. What do you have for us?
Yeah, this one's going to get bigger as it goes on. I'm going to take the Texans -2.5 at the Ravens. This spread is going to grow. If you don't get on it now, this thing's going to be 4.5, 5, 5.5, maybe 6 by the time the game rolls around, because there's no one playing for Baltimore. Like, everyone's out. Lamar Jackson out. Roquan Smith out. Matabuke out. Like, it's Nate Wiggins out. Jair Alexander in. Like, not good. Like it's worrisome. So at this point, I don't mean to like dog on Jair Alexander. Sorry, but like at this point, if the Texans don't beat the spread, like that's a huge problem, right? Then we have to have a real conversation about the Houston Texans at that point. And I'm sorry, Eric, I know this is your team, but I'm going to send some positive vibes their way, and if I can carry over my winning ways to them, maybe I can some. They looked pretty good though, right? Like they took care of business against the Titans. Looked like they figured some stuff out. Woody Marks has opened that offense up in a way that looks real nice.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they were missing, right? They were just missing a running back that they were like, hey, listen, like we need to be able to get this in motion, right? Nick Chubb, I am so sad to say the wheels have kind of come off on this already, and it's fine. It's whatever. But this seems like a slam dunk, right? Like none of us are picking the Ravens plus 2.5, right?
No, I don't think so. I think you're on the right side of this. I do like what we saw out of the Texans last week, and with the injury report looking like a dang CVS receipt right now for Baltimore, I think this is a good play from you once again here. And Eric, you're actually staying in this game in the totals market, though.
I am. And before I shift over to the totals market, if you are in a DraftKings state, you can get this at a -1.5 for the Texans.
Wow.
So that looks like a pretty hot ticket to go get filed away if you agree with Steve as I do. Moving over to the totals side, prior to the Lamar Jackson news, I had the Houston Texans and Baltimore Ravens going over 43.5 and going over it by a pretty comfortable margin, to the point where I'm comfortable sticking with that call. If you want to hedge a little bit, you can actually get it over 42.5 at DraftKings. That might be a bit of a heady play, but overall, really what I'm trying to do here is take advantage of two arrows pointing in a similar direction. One is what Steve mentioned. This Texans offense is an entirely different version of itself with a capable running game, never mind a dynamic running game, which is what Woody Marks has brought to this backfield and really balanced out what the Texans are trying to do on offense. But also, as was the early part of 2024, the early part of 2025 finds a Baltimore Ravens defense that is an absolute dumpster fire. I mean, a wet blanket, a can't stop a nosebleed, cheap tent, whatever analogy you want to draw. The Ravens are just getting completely steamrolled out there. So whether it is the Texans doing the majority of the heavy lifting en route to this total, whether it is the Texans doing the needful and Derrick Henry keeping up his time-honored tradition of just completely dump trucking this team, I think there are a few different ways that you can get to 43.5 points. So I'm happy to stick with you over here.
Was it Bradley Beal who said, like, after a game, he's like, we couldn't guard a parked car? That's always been my favorite saying of all time. So
can't stop a nosebleed. They're all out there, and they all apply to the 2025 Ravens defense.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Steve, you're also expecting some potential points here in the city of brotherly love, where I just watched National Treasure again last night, where things certainly got heated there in that one for Nick Cage and the boys. So you're expecting some more fireworks here 20 plus years later for Jalen Hurts and company.
I'm glad you rewatched that movie, especially since you're repping that division next season.
Yes,
yeah, I got Denver against Philadelphia going over 43.5 points. That seems like a really low total for two teams that are combined averaging over 43.5 points per game. I don't know why it's so low. I kind of am a little worried as to why it is. Maybe there's something I don't know. But everyone seems healthy. I assume AJ Brown's going to get a healthy dose of targets this week. So I would expect to see another like big game out of him in the passing game in general. Here's the thing, and why I'm not panicking on the Eagles in general here, is that this cannot continue. What's happening is offensive players are getting really mad, and they're getting disgruntled. They're going to want to leave. They can't have that in Philadelphia. That will not stand. This offense is going to pick it up, and the Denver defense is not as good as I expected it to be.
True.
I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why. I don't know if it's a scheme issue or if players just kind of thought their, didn't stink. But like, I expect 43.5 points. That's pretty low. So I'm pretty comfortable taking the over here. I mean, 43.5, that's 22 points apiece. So I'm pretty comfortable taking the over here.
And Eric, speaking of some close your eyes specials, you're on one here on the money line overseas. What do you have for us?
Yeah, looking at to take advantage of the Minnesota Vikings maintaining their Euro trip and I guess traveling to the Cleveland Browns there for the early game on Sunday morning. I like the Browns money line over here. Plus 170 is a very appealing price tag. This Browns defense is very much so legit. They can contend and keep their team in contention with seemingly anybody out there, as long as the offense isn't getting in their way. We now have Dylan Gabriel coming in. I think we're going to see much more of a ground and pound clock management type of offensive system for this week 5 tilt. And also, I am very much so banking and wagering on Carson Wentz doing bad things when he is put under pressure and potentially having a turnover or two, which obviously will keep this game closer and might even lead to some defensive points for the Browns.
Okay.
Are you not worried at all about Brian Flores scheming up some of the cruelest blitz packages of all time on this poor rookie who stands at about my height?
Of course I'm worried, but I also think that a great way to counter that is a very effective ground game. And I think that is something the Browns can say pretty confidently that they have.
All right, fair enough. And
Yeah.
Steve, you are also on a money line here, but you're actually taking a favorite down there in the great city of Charlotte.
Yeah, listen, a wise man once told me you can never go broke taking a profit. And in my lifetime, that seems to have worked out. And in my bets this weekend, that's what I did. I just said, hey, you know what? I'm not trying to get plus money. I want sure money. And one thing I'm pretty sure about is that the Carolina Panthers suck. And that is what I'm betting on. And I will take the Miami Dolphins straight up to beat the Carolina Panthers. I don't care how bad the Dolphins defense is. I know how bad the Panthers defense is. And I know how bad the Panthers defense is because I just watched them get boat raced by the New England Patriots, who are not good.
Yeah, fair enough. I will say the one thing here is that the Panthers did look like a different team at home, right? That was kind of their one bow up game against the Falcons. So maybe we see that here again. And definitely a lot of adjustments the Dolphins will have to do on their offensive game plan without the services of Tyreek Hill moving forward. But
remember, sometimes, and I warned that this can happen, right? Sometimes teams rally. Now, I know Tyreek wasn't the most loved guy, so maybe it won't happen and they won't get like this like rah-rah mentality, but they got to win. And sometimes with a team like the Dolphins, especially with a coach like Mike McDaniel, he stayed cool, he stayed calm. Maybe the team, and Tyreek was really the biggest detractor of what Mike McDaniel was doing, essentially, like in terms of like the vibe.
Sure.
If that vibe is kind of catching on again, and all of a sudden they're looking going like, hey, wait a minute, this dude still got it. Like, the Miami Dolphins, do you know they're the number 1 team on third down conversions? Like, this offense is still legit.
I did not know
Number
that.
1.
Yeah,
they're converting at 55%. So this team moves the ball effectively. That Carolina Panthers defense is bad. I expect this to be not only just a win for the Dolphins, but a blowout.
Okay. All right. I'm seeing some more questions coming in, guys. We'll get to those at the end of the program. Want to get to a few more props here as we shift into the player markets. And I've got a trio for you starting at the top here. Give me my friend Omarion Hampton to go over his rushing attempts or yards line. The Chargers are back home against the Commies after dropping their first game of the season to the Giants. They also lost left tackle Joe Alt in the process. I think that means they have to lean more on Omarion Hampton this coming week and for the foreseeable future. Hampton has averaged 99 rushing yards the past 2 weeks, saw an 89% of the snaps last week without Najee in the lineup. Washington has actually kept their games rather low scoring this season, and therefore they've seen the 4th most RB carries per game at 24. BP projections are putting this line somewhere between 65 and 70. They've let Bijan and Josh Jacobs go over that line. The Commanders have. Also, Ashton Genty was not far off that line. Rushing attempts should also come in around 16.5 BPs, telling us when this line gets official at books. So We've all seen those running backs go over this mark against this team as well. So give me Omarion and Hampton over rushing yards or attempts. Again, I'll have my full card with the official plays in the IBT football family as we get closer. I'm also going to take a play on Javonte Williams here, and I'm also going to be doing the same thing. We'll see what the line is, whether it's over rushing attempts or over yards. Javonte has garnered 76.4% of the snaps this season. He outtouched Miles Sanders last week as well, 23-4 in that overtime thriller. And Dallas has to lean on him, I think, a little bit here. We got CeeDee Lamb down. It's really just Javonte Williams as the second best skill player on this team behind George Pickens. So Javonte currently averaging 15.8 carries per game, 78 yards per game as well on the ground. He'll be facing a Jets team that has seen the most carries per game this season to running backs, 26.7 and 108 point rushing yards against opposing running backs as well. BP projecting this line 46.5 to 56.5. So if I can get something in there, I will gladly take it for Javonte Williams. And also round us out here with a receiving prop on Elic Ayomanor, one of my favorite wide receiver prospects for the Tennessee Titans. Calvin Ridley was not at 100% last week. Elic Ayomanor led the team in snaps. I'm expecting Calvin Ridley not to be at 100% again this weekend, and Elic to continue to lead them in snaps. The Stanford product currently leads the team in targets, receiving yards, and touchdowns, the only player to catch a touchdown from Cam Ward this season. And in a game where the Titans are probably trailing again against the Cardinals are averaging 14.5 receptions to opposing wide receivers this season, the second most. BP putting this line right around 33.5 again. He's hit this in the past 3 games. Give me a little Ayomanor here in the player props market. And Eric, you also have a trio of player props that you're down on as well.
Yeah, going 3 deep in the props market. 2 of them are coming from the upcoming Thursday night game between San Francisco and the Rams of Los Angeles, and they are largely pointing to a similar exploit, that being both Blake Corum to go over 26.5 rushing yards and Brian Robinson Jr. going over 15.5 rushing yards. The thing to remember is that on these Thursday night games, you tend to see a little bit more of the backup running back than you otherwise might. And for both of these guys, these are players that are seeing their snaps trend in the right way. They're seeing their carries trend in the right way. In the case of Brian Robinson Jr., he surpassed this number in all 4 of his games this year. In the case of Blake Corum, he surpassed it in 2 out of the last 3. So moreover, we're looking at what could potentially be one-play paydays for guys like this, but also we're seeing a Thursday night environment that tends to see, again, a little bit more opportunity for these backup running backs on the short week. And then my third target, this is one like some of the ones that you brought up here, KaVontae Turpin. We are looking for a line to be posted. Last week, his line was 30.5 yards. He came right to that number. He finished right at 30 yards. So I would expect that it lands right around there. I would probably take this all the way up to 34.5 or even 35.5 yards. This has everything to do with 2 things. The game environment. I think that both Dallas and New York are going to do plenty of scoring, and this is going to be one of the highest game totals on the entire slate this week. But also KaVontae Turpin gets the turnstile matchup against Michael Carter II, a slot corner for the New York Jets that is currently allowed 123 receiving yards through 4 weeks and is allowing almost 14 yards per reception. That is an absurd number for a slot corner. So go out and get you some KaVontae Turpin. Again, probably lands around 30, 31.5. I would take it nearing 35 to go over.
I love this because I was actually going to bet Turpin's over on the receiving yards last week. Didn't love the matchup, though. I didn't love the matchup, so I stayed off it. So maybe the start time to get back invested with Turpin, who's just been a really fun player to watch there in Dallas. And with his home run hitting ability, he really just needs one play. So I would prefer definitely the receiving yards as opposed to the receptions, I think, here with Turpin. Steve, you also have a player prop. Kicking it old school for a change here.
Yeah, it's Matt Stafford going for over 240 passing yards. Like Eric said, these Thursday night games, they tend to be pretty rough on running backs. And one way to combat that coaches tend to do is they throw a little bit more. Matt Stafford's averaging about 280 yards passing this season. And it is a Thursday night game. It's a short rest week. And that is the hardest on the running backs. Of all the skill position players, the ones who that just hurts is the running back, and you just try to take a little bit off of them in these games, right? So I expect Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Devontae Adams to be extremely busy this week. And Tutu Atwell has shown that he can sneak behind a defense every now and then. So I wouldn't be terribly shocked to see this little more porous 49ers defense than we're used to seeing give up some big plays to one of the better wide receiving cores in the NFL right now.
Okay, let's go ahead, guys. Let's round it out with our touchdown call contest. Let's update the leaderboard here. Again, you can access the touchdown call contest. You can win yourself a Dynasty Dex plaque plus some IBT media swag by joining the IBT football family. You get access into our giveaways. You get access to the Discord, our full picks and predictions always uploaded there in the Discord and the TD contest. It's been a lot of fun over there. And currently on the board, we have Trav still leading the way with 8. Rob had a big week. He's up at 7 now. Steve and myself, we both had quite a bounce back. I got 3 touchdowns from Ashton Genty to move me up to 4. Tied with Steve and Jake Perry there, who each have 6. Eric now tied with Trash Sandwiches after Trash had a 3-touchdown week as well for 6th and 7th. Ben and James bringing up the rear here at 8 and 9. Then we have a couple people trying in just 1 touchdown. So still time to enter the TD contest, still time to get on the board. The link to that is in the episode description. And Eric, you got a little bit of work to do here, buddy. A little bit of work to do. Not a bad week last week by any means, but still some work to do here. And I'll start off with you first, my friend.
Yeah, not a bad week last week at all. Like I mentioned, a hair's breadth away from a 2-touchdown performance. So finding the end zone more over the last few weeks, I think will keep the trend alive. Starting with Breece Hall, I believe he is minus 105 to find his way into the end zone. I've already mentioned that I think that this Jets and Cowboys game is going to be an absolute track meet, but also the Cowboys in particular, they're allowing almost 58 yards on average receiving to running backs this year. So I think we're going to see plenty of targets going Breece Hall's way, and he has the opportunity to convert one of those catches into a touchdown. And obviously, he is a prominent feature in the ground game as well. So we could potentially be looking at a multi-score game for Breece Hall at minus 105. And then for my longer shot pick, moving over to some plus money with Chris Olave, an absolute target monster, 25% target share in all 4 games of the 2025 season. And he gets the absolute turnstile that is the Giant secondary, whether it's them trying to do the Dante Banks thing again or rotating through Andrew Phillips and Paulson Adebo. This is a unit of cornerbacks that has already allowed 5 receiving touchdowns. And I think we can see Chris Olave with the elite volume that he's seeing convert at least one of his catches into a score.
I've got 2 TD calls for you as well. First, give me Cam Skattebo, minus 105 at Hard Rock Bet. The Saints have allowed 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 running backs over the past 2 weeks. Skattebo has 14 attempts inside the 20-yard line. That's top 15 in the nation right now. Also, he is seeing just a ton of his team's carries inside the red zone as well. He feels like it's him or Jackson Dart who's going to sneak into the end zone in this one in a game when the Giants should very much be in it. Skattebo should be used frequently and often, especially without Tyrone Tracy in the mix. And I'll also likely be taking, this isn't official yet because I don't have a line for it yet, but as long as it's plus money, because we're supposed to take 1 plus money bet, 1 minus money one every week as well. I'm going Nico Collins. If he is in the plus money range here, Nico Collins has 2 receiving touchdowns so far this season, still getting the target volume there. It feels like it's really him. It's Woody Marks, and there's not much else on this offense. A little Dalton Schultz action here and there, but he will be facing the Ravens this weekend, as Steve previewed earlier, and everyone's banged up. Nate Wiggins, their talented young cornerback, he just got hurt this past weekend as well. And whether you look at it through a 2025 season lens, the Ravens have allowed the 2nd most receiving touchdowns to opposing wide receivers with 6. Or if you just want to take it and slice it in the last 2 weeks, they've also allowed the 2nd most receiving touchdowns to opposing wide receivers with 4. So give me a little Nico Collins action. Give me a little Cam Skattebo. And Steve, I'll turn it over to you for your anytime touchdown calls for week 5.
Yeah, so these are early, always subject to change. So please join the Discord because you'll get our
Shout out.
official picks usually day of in there that we finalize this. But we'll start with Tetairoa McMillan. You know, I love Tetairoa McMillan, and while I did say the
Always.
Dolphins will boat race the Carolina Panthers, I did not say they will shut them out. And someone needs to get into the end zone, and that Dolphin secondary is suspect at best. It's time that the rookie gets his first touchdown in the NFL. So I am anticipating this is the week that we see it. And then we're going to see Brock Bowers have a get-right game. I think he's starting to look a little bit healthier and a little bit healthier and a little bit healthier. And I just I think this is the week that we see it. And I think Ashton Genty doing what he did this past week is going to open up so much for Brock Bowers. It's not even going to be funny. I think we'll see it flip. I think Ashton Genty is going to let down a lot of people, and Brock Bowers is going to surprise a lot of people this week. So Brock Bowers, lock it in.